People rarely understand why an INFJ can walk into a room and shift the entire atmosphere without saying a word. It's not about looks, status, or ego. It's something deeper, something people feel before they can even define it. There's an energy that follows the INFJ, quiet, intense, and unsettling in a way that exposes what's hidden beneath the surface. Some call it mystery, others call it power, but the truth is, it's presence. The kind that can't be faked, forced, or ignored. INFJs don't try to intimidate anyone. They just see more than they're supposed to. They notice tone shifts, emotional undercurrents, the truth behind the smiles. And that kind of awareness makes people nervous because when you stand in front of someone who can see you, really see you, it's impossible to hide behind masks. This video will uncover the psychological depth of why INFJs naturally intimidate people without meaning to, from their silent confidence to their emotional precision. You'll understand how their calm energy can make others restless and why their empathy feels like an X-ray to the soul. If you're an INFJ, this is your mirror. If you've ever met one, this is your explanation. So before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Brainy. We're building a community of deep thinkers, quiet minds, and emotionally intelligent souls. And if you relate to the INFJ experience, stay until the end, because what you'll hear might finally make you feel understood. Now, let's uncover the truth behind why people feel intimidated by an INFJ without even realizing it. The quiet confidence that needs no validation. What makes the INFJ so quietly intimidating isn't arrogance, it's the absence of need. They don't chase approval, applause, or attention. Their confidence doesn't come from how loudly they speak, but from how deeply they understand themselves. When they walk into a room, they don't compete for space, they simply belong there, as if their presence has already earned its place. That quiet self-assurance unsettles people who rely on external validation to feel seen. Because the INFJ doesn't need validation, they are validation, self-sourced, self-contained, and self-knowing. People often misinterpret that energy. They think the INFJ is distant or detached, but in truth, they're simply anchored. They've been through enough storms to realize that peace isn't found in proving themselves. It's in mastering the art of not needing to. Their confidence is built on introspection, not image, resilience, not reputation. They've seen their own shadows and made peace with them, and that kind of inner work radiates a power that others can sense but can't quite define. It's the reason people glance twice when an INFJ passes by. Something about them feels grounded, like they carry answers without speaking them. In a world that screams for attention, the INFJ's calm silence stands out like a mirror. It reflects people's insecurities back at them. When someone who constantly seeks validation meets an INFJ, they feel the uncomfortable contrast. Because while they're trying to be seen, the INFJ is content simply being. It's not dominance, it's depth. The INFJ doesn't need to take control of the room. Their energy already does. That's why people feel both drawn to and intimidated by them. They want to understand how someone can be so composed, so quietly self-assured, without asking for permission to be. The answer is simple. The INFJ has already faced the worst kind of rejection, not being understood. And once they've survived that, they stop performing for the world's approval. Their quiet confidence is a declaration of self-acceptance. It's not loud, it's not boastful, but it's unshakable. And for many, that kind of peace is the most intimidating energy of all. Their ability to read emotions others hide. INFJs possess a rare kind of emotional radar, one that doesn't just hear words, but feels what's behind them. While most people rely on facial expressions or tone to gauge emotion, the INFJ reads something deeper. Micro shifts in energy, subtle pauses, the flicker in someone's eyes when their words don't match their truth. They don't try to intrude or expose, it just happens naturally. Their intuition runs so deep that emotions become data, patterns, frequencies, invisible threads that tell them exactly what someone's heart is trying to hide. To the INFJ, a conversation isn't about words, it's about vibration. They can sense the sadness beneath a smile, the resentment behind politeness, the fear wrapped in humor. It's not magic, it's emotional intelligence sharpened by empathy. They've spent years observing, analyzing, and feeling more than most people realize. But here's the paradox. The more they see, the more isolated they feel. Because when you can read emotions others hide, you also see their motives, their contradictions, their unspoken wounds. And that knowledge is heavy. People often underestimate how exhausting this ability can be. While others walk through life blind to emotional tension, the INFJ feels everything. Every shift, every change in tone, every false reassurance. It's like standing in a room full of unspoken feelings, hearing noise no one else notices. And when they respond with uncanny precision, when they say, "I know something's wrong," before anyone admits it, it unnerves people. Because being seen that clearly can feel almost invasive, even if the INFJ's intention is pure. This is why people feel both drawn to and wary of them. The INFJ can pierce through masks without trying, revealing truths that others spend their lives hiding. Their empathy doesn't just make them kind, it makes them powerful. Not because they manipulate emotions, but because they understand them on a cellular level. In a world built on performance, the INFJ's insight can feel like exposure. They see people not for who they pretend to be, but for who they really are. And that, more than anything, is why their presence can be both magnetic and terrifying, because being around them means facing your own reflection. The aura of mystery around their silence. Silence is the INFJ's most misunderstood language, and their most powerful one. When they go quiet, it isn't emptiness, it's depth, disguised as calm. Their silence doesn't come from a lack of words, but from having too many thoughts that the world wouldn't understand. It's a form of protection for their energy, their emotions, and their truth. And that stillness creates something magnetic, something people can't help but notice. Others fill silence with noise. The INFJ fills it with presence. In a conversation, while everyone rushes to be heard, the INFJ listens, deeply, patiently, almost spiritually. They absorb the emotion behind each word, watching the rhythm of what's said and unsaid. Their eyes speak more than their mouth ever could. That kind of quiet awareness makes people uneasy because it feels like being studied, not judged, but understood. It's an experience most aren't used to. There's power in someone who doesn't need to prove themselves through volume. Their silence holds mystery because it leaves room for imagination. People begin to wonder what the INFJ is thinking, what secrets lie behind that soft smile or those distant eyes. They project their own fears, curiosity, or admiration onto the INFJ because the less the INFJ reveals, the more others feel exposed. That's the paradox. By saying less, they reveal more than anyone else in the room. But behind that silence is a story of survival. INFJs learned early that not everyone deserves access to their thoughts. They've been misunderstood too many times, their empathy mistaken for naivety, their openness used against them. So now their quiet becomes a shield. It's not coldness, it's wisdom. The INFJ knows that not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every emotion needs to be shared. And yet, people feel their silence. It lingers, commanding attention without a single word. It's why their presence feels both comforting and intimidating, like standing near a calm ocean, aware of the unseen depth beneath the surface. That's the essence of the INFJ's mystery. Their silence doesn't hide emptiness, it hides universes. And once someone realizes that, they understand why being near an INFJ feels less like a conversation and more like standing in the presence of something profound. Empathy that feels uncomfortably accurate. The INFJ's empathy isn't soft, it's surgical. It doesn't just comfort, it dissects. They don't guess what you're feeling, they know, often before you've said a word. Their empathy reaches into the emotional undercurrent of every interaction, pulling out truths most people hide even from themselves. It's not a conscious act, it's instinct. The INFJ steps into another person's world so seamlessly that they start to feel their emotions as if they were their own. And that level of connection can be both healing and haunting. When an INFJ looks at you, they don't just see your face, they see your story. The sleepless nights behind your eyes, the smile you wear to hide pain, the words you wanted to say but swallowed. Their empathy translates emotion into understanding. It's why their advice feels personal, their presence grounding. But for some, that accuracy feels too close for comfort. Being known that deeply can make people defensive, even frightened. It's not that the INFJ tries to expose anyone, it's that their compassion makes pretense impossible. This gift comes at a cost. Constantly absorbing others' pain leaves the INFJ emotionally overloaded. They carry other people's storms inside their own heart, often mistaking it for their own weather. They'll lie awake wondering why they feel heavy, only to realize it's not their sadness, it's someone else's they picked up during the day. Yet they can't switch it off. Their empathy is part of their wiring, a sensitivity that makes them both extraordinary and exhausted. And here's where the intimidation begins. People can't hide behind masks with an INFJ. Their empathy isn't just kindness, it's insight. It cuts through excuses, half-truths, and emotional performances. When someone lies about how they're doing, the INFJ knows. When someone says they're fine, but their soul screams otherwise, the INFJ feels it. That honesty forces people to confront parts of themselves they'd rather ignore. So while others admire the INFJ's empathy, few are ready to be seen by it. It's not just accuracy, it's exposure. The INFJ's compassion acts like a mirror, reflecting back emotions people thought they buried long ago. And in that reflection lies both fear and fascination, because deep down, everyone wants to be understood, but few are prepared for what that truly feels like. The depth of their gaze, seeing beyond words. The INFJ's gaze has a quiet gravity, the kind that makes people pause mid-sentence, suddenly aware that they're being seen, not just looked at. It's not the intensity of a stare, it's the weight of understanding behind it. Their eyes carry an awareness that seems to reach beyond words, beyond masks, beyond the moment itself. When an INFJ looks at you, it's as if they can see straight through the walls you didn't even know you built. That kind of presence can feel comforting to some and unnerving to others. Most people use eye contact as a social gesture, but for the INFJ, it's a form of reading. They scan energy, emotion, and subtle shifts in expression, piecing together what isn't being said. They notice the tightening jaw when someone pretends to be calm, the flicker of guilt behind a laugh, the way eyes dim slightly when truth is avoided. It's not about judgment, it's about truth. Their gaze collects data that goes beyond language, and that's what gives it its power. People often describe the INFJ's eyes as knowing or unsettling, not because they reveal too much, but because they reflect too much. Looking into their eyes feels like standing in front of a mirror that shows what you've hidden from yourself. And in that moment, people either open up completely or pull away. That's the strange paradox. The INFJ's warmth draws people in, but their insight exposes them in ways they can't control. For the INFJ, this perception isn't a performance, it's instinct. They're not trying to be mysterious, they simply are. Their gaze holds empathy, but it also carries centuries of observation, layers of feeling, and an unspoken message. I understand more than I should. And that silent understanding can be both healing and terrifying, depending on what someone carries inside. This is why people often find themselves confessing things to an INFJ they never meant to say. Their eyes create a safe space, yet one that demands honesty. Because when someone looks at you and truly sees you, pretending becomes impossible. That's the magic and the mystery of the INFJ gaze. It doesn't just meet your eyes, it meets your soul. And for many, that's a level of truth they're not ready to face. Unshakable morals that expose pretenses. The INFJ's moral compass doesn't bend with the crowd. It anchors them when the world drifts into gray. They don't just talk about integrity, they live it, often in silence, without needing validation or recognition. Their sense of right and wrong is deeply personal, rooted in empathy, intuition, and a quiet refusal to betray their own values. And it's precisely that conviction, steady, calm, and immovable, that exposes the falsehood in others. Because when someone stands firm in truth, every mask around them begins to crack. While others justify their behavior with convenience or social approval, the INFJ measures everything against authenticity. They can't pretend to like what feels wrong, can't stay where honesty is missing, and won't play along with manipulation just to keep the peace. Their presence alone becomes a mirror that reflects the dissonance in people who rely on facades, and that's what makes some people uneasy. The INFJ doesn't call out dishonesty. They simply don't participate in it. Their quiet withdrawal becomes a louder statement than confrontation ever could. In a world that rewards conformity, the INFJ's integrity looks rebellious. They follow an internal law that no one else can rewrite. Not pressure, not flattery, not fear. This makes them both respected and resented. Some admire their unwavering authenticity, while others feel judged by it, even when the INFJ says nothing. Because truth, when embodied so effortlessly, has a way of making others question their own compromises. But this moral strength doesn't come from pride. It comes from empathy. The INFJ knows how destructive deceit and selfishness can be, having felt their impact deeply. So their boundaries aren't arrogance, they're protection for themselves and for the energy they pour into others. They would rather stand alone in peace than surrounded by people who trade loyalty for comfort. And that quiet righteousness carries weight. It's why people both trust and fear the INFJ. Their standards reveal what others hide, not through accusation, but by contrast. Their authenticity turns pretense into noise. The INFJ doesn't try to expose anyone. They simply are who they are without bending. And in a world addicted to performance, that level of moral clarity is unsettling because deep down, it reminds everyone what real strength looks like, being honest when no one's watching. Emotional intelligence that outsmarts manipulation. The INFJ's emotional intelligence isn't loud, it's lethal in its precision. While others rely on logic or impulse, the INFJ moves through emotional landscapes like a seasoned strategist who can see every pattern before it unfolds. They read tone, microexpressions, energy shifts, all the invisible data most people ignore. So when someone tries to manipulate them, the INFJ doesn't react, they analyze. They watch how emotions are weaponized, how guilt is disguised as care, how flattery hides control. By the time a manipulator believes they've gained ground, the INFJ already knows exactly what game they're playing and quietly begins to take back the board. What makes their emotional intelligence so powerful isn't just awareness, it's restraint. They don't rush to expose or retaliate. Instead, they observe patterns and repeat until the truth reveals itself naturally. To outsiders, it may seem like passivity, but it's actually strategy. The INFJ knows that silence disarms chaos far better than confrontation ever will. They understand that manipulation thrives on reaction, and by denying it emotional fuel, they starve it to death. Their empathy becomes their shield, not their weakness. Because while manipulators assume the INFJ's kindness is an open door, it's actually a test. The INFJ gives people the chance to show their character, and when deceit enters the room, they notice immediately. They can feel when words don't match energy, when apologies ring hollow, when charm comes with an agenda. Their intuition translates emotion into truth faster than reason ever could. And yet, they rarely call it out directly. The INFJ prefers to let distance do the work. They'll quietly step back, change their rhythm, withdraw their emotional investment, and watch as the manipulator begins to unravel without their attention. It's not revenge, it's self-preservation with grace. This is why INFJs seem impossible to control. Their emotional depth makes them unpredictable to those who think in simple tactics. You can't deceive someone who already understands your motive better than you do. In the end, the INFJ doesn't need to fight manipulation. They dissolve it with awareness. Their calm becomes confrontation, their empathy becomes defense, and their silence becomes the final truth no manipulator can outsmart. Authenticity that forces others to confront themselves. The INFJ's authenticity isn't performative, it's magnetic and disarming because it's real in a world built on pretending. They don't chase approval or mold themselves to fit expectations. They live from the inside out, guided by an inner truth that refuses to be diluted. That raw honesty doesn't demand attention, it commands it. Because when someone shows up without masks, everyone around them is forced to see how much they've been hiding behind theirs. People often underestimate how powerful that quiet authenticity is. The INFJ doesn't preach self-awareness, they embody it. Their calm presence makes others feel both comforted and exposed, often at the same time. They can have a simple conversation, and yet something about their sincerity lingers long after. It's not that they're trying to make people feel guilty or inadequate. It's just that authenticity acts like a mirror. It reflects back the truth people try to avoid. And facing that truth, even in the presence of someone gentle, can be deeply unsettling. The INFJ's honesty isn't blunt or cruel, it's empathetic but unfiltered. They'll tell the truth softly, but it still hits hard because it's real. They don't sugarcoat to make others comfortable. They know that growth requires discomfort and that pretending only delays transformation. So they move through life with integrity, quietly disrupting the illusions people build to protect their egos. And while some are drawn to that authenticity like a light, others recoil from it. Because to stand near someone who is unapologetically themselves means confronting every part of you that isn't. The INFJ doesn't have to expose anyone. Their very existence does it. They make people question their motives, their relationships, and even their own identity. For the INFJ, authenticity isn't a choice, it's survival. They've lived through the exhaustion of pretending, of dimming their light to make others comfortable. Now their truth has become their peace. They'd rather be misunderstood for being real than accepted for being fake. And that kind of unapologetic genuineness doesn't just inspire, it transforms. Because when someone lives with that much honesty, you either rise to meet it or run from it. The INFJ doesn't need to change others. Their authenticity simply makes everyone else see who they really are. Boundaries that command respect without demanding it. The INFJ's boundaries aren't drawn with anger, they're built from self-respect. They don't shout to be heard or force people to treat them right, they simply act in ways that make disrespect impossible to sustain. Their calm withdrawal says more than confrontation ever could. When an INFJ decides to set limits, it isn't out of pride or control, it's out of clarity. They've given, listened, and understood for too long, and now they know exactly where the line must be. People often mistake the INFJ's kindness for unlimited access. They think empathy means availability or that patience means tolerance. But once the INFJ recognizes imbalance, something inside them quietly shifts. They stop explaining. They stop overgiving. They stop trying to make people comfortable at their own expense. Their energy becomes sacred ground, not because they've hardened, but because they've learned that peace is too precious to bargain with. Their boundaries are subtle yet unshakable. They won't argue when someone crosses a line, they'll simply step back, emotionally and energetically, leaving the other person to face the emptiness created by their absence. That silence demands more reflection than any argument could. It's how the INFJ reclaims power, not through dominance, but through quiet self-possession. This is why people respect the INFJ even when they don't fully understand them. Their restraint holds weight. They don't beg for fairness, they embody it. They don't need to say, "You can't treat me that way." Their distance says it for them. And the longer they stay detached, the more those around them begin to recognize that respect is not optional, it's the only way to stay close. What makes these boundaries so effective is that they're rooted in compassion, not resentment. The INFJ doesn't wish harm on anyone. They simply know that everyone deserves responsibility for their own behavior, and protecting their own peace is part of honoring that truth. Their boundaries are quiet reminders that love without respect isn't love, and empathy without limits becomes self-destruction. The INFJ's strength doesn't lie in their ability to fight for boundaries. It lies in their ability to maintain them without noise. Because when you know your worth, you don't have to defend it, you just live it, and the world adjusts accordingly. Their calm energy that feels both peaceful and powerful. The INFJ's calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. Their energy doesn't scream for attention or demand recognition. It settles quietly in the room, commanding respect through presence alone. It's the kind of calm that makes people lower their voices without realizing why, the kind of stillness that disarms chaos. While others try to prove their worth through dominance, the INFJ radiates a strength that speaks in silence. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. They know who they are and they don't need the world to validate it. This calm energy comes from surviving emotional storms and learning how to stand in the center of them without breaking. The INFJ has felt everything: disappointment, betrayal, loss, and turned it into understanding. Their serenity is not naivety, it's experience transformed into wisdom. They've learned that reaction gives power away, that noise feeds conflict, and that real influence is quiet. So when others panic, the INFJ observes. When others lash out, they pause. That pause is their strength, the sacred space between what happens and how they choose to respond. People feel safe around them because of that calm, yet also slightly unsettled. It's as if the INFJ's energy reflects back everything you are, both the peace you crave and the chaos you try to hide. Their grounded presence makes people question themselves, not because the INFJ judges them, but because being near authenticity exposes all the pretenses. Their calm isn't passive, it's active awareness, a steady current that transforms the atmosphere without needing to control it. What most don't realize is that this peace was earned. It's the result of choosing silence over reaction, boundaries over burnout, and truth over approval. The INFJ has been the storm before, now they've become the eye of it. That's why their peace feels so powerful. It's rooted in pain they've already transcended. In a world addicted to noise and validation, their calm becomes revolutionary. It's not the calm of indifference, but the calm of someone who knows they no longer need to prove their worth. Their stillness carries weight. Their peace, presence, and their quiet power, the kind that changes people without saying a word, is what makes the INFJ unforgettable. If you've made it this far, you already understand. The INFJ's calm, their depth, and their quiet strength aren't signs of detachment. They're proof of transformation. The world may not always understand their silence, but those who do know it's the language of peace earned through pain. If this video resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen, misunderstood, or deeply introspective like an INFJ, this space is your home. You're not alone in how you think, feel, or see the world. Take a moment to subscribe to Brainy and join a community that values self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and truth over noise. Your story, your thoughts, and your peace matter here. And before you go, tell me in the comments, do you find your calm misunderstood or respected by those around you? Let's talk about it below, because understanding yourself is where your power truly begins.